In this video, I'd like to clear up some of the misconceptions between terms and factors. If you remember from my previous video, I talked about the parts of an equation. We know that each equation is made up of two expressions and that our expressions are made up of terms. Terms are what are added and subtracted. They're kind of like the words of a sentence. And each term is made up of factors. Factors are what are getting multiplied within each term. So again, if you think about it back to English, if a term is a word, a factor is a letter in that word. Factors can either be numerical coefficients or they can be our variables. So let's look at an expression. Here I have 13xy squared minus xy plus 17. Let's start by listing out the different terms. Remember, terms are separated by pluses and minuses. So my first term is 13xy squared, my second term is negative xy, and my third term is 17. Remember that the sign goes with the term that is behind it. Next, let's take a look at each one of these terms and list out the factors in each of the terms. So in my first term, 13xy squared, 13 is a factor, x is a factor, y squared is a factor. So it looks like I only have 3 factors, but in reality I have 4 because I have 2 y's that are getting multiplied. In my second term, I have negative 1 as a factor, x as a factor, and y as a factor. So my second term has 3 factors in it. My last term, just as 17, that is my only factor. Let's now list out our coefficients. So in the first term, 13 is my numerical coefficient. In my second term, negative 1 is my numerical coefficient. And 17 isn't really a coefficient because a coefficient is a number that's being multiplied by some sort of variable. So 17, since it's not multiplied by a variable, it's called a constant term because it won't change. There's no variable there that's going to change that term. So it's going to go in its own little box here with the constants. I hope looking at this table will help alleviate some of the confusion between terms, factors, and coefficients.